Hello and welcome to the session on motivation. Today we will discuss one of the most fundamental and fascinating concepts in psychology, a concept that influences every choice we make, every goal we set and every challenge we try to overcome. Motivation is a fundamental concept in psychology that explains the internal processes guiding individuals' actions towards specific goals. It encompasses the forces that initiate, direct, and sustain behavior, influencing how people think, feel, and act in various contexts. Whether it is a student striving to achieve academic success, an athlete training for a competition, or a professional working toward a promotion, motivation serves as the underlying drive that fuels persistence and effort. Understanding motivation is essential not only for explaining human behavior, but also for enhancing performance, learning, and personal development. Over the years, numerous theories and approaches have been developed to explore the sources and types of motivation, ranging from instinctual drives to cognitive and social influences. This exploration provides a comprehensive foundation for understanding how and why individuals engage in purposeful behavior, making motivation a central topic in psychology and education. To grasp this idea more vividly, let us move from a theory to a simple analogy that captures the essence of motivation in everyday life. Motivation is like a GPS. It initiates the journey, you turn it on and begin moving because of the route it sets. It sustains the journey, it keeps updating, reminding and guiding you as long as you are on the road. And it directs the journey, it gives you a destination and route, telling you where to go and why to go. Psychologist Andrew Coleman described motivation as a driving force responsible for the initiation, persistence, direction, and vigor of goal-directed behavior. This definition highlights three important elements. Number one, direction of behavior identifies the specific goal or objective the individual is trying to achieve. Number two, intensity of behavior reflects how much effort or concentration is being applied towards that goal. Persistence of behavior indicates how long the individual continues the activity until the goal is reached. Let us bring this to life with an example. Imagine a student preparing for final exams. The moment they decide, I am going to study for 3 hours every day, that's direction. Sticking to that schedule for weeks despite distractions, that's persistence. And putting full focus into every study session instead of just passively reading, that is intensity. Before we go further, it's important to distinguish three closely related concepts. Number one, motive. Number two, motivation. And number third, motivators. Motive, an internal need, desire or reason that drives a person to act. It is the why behind behavior. For example, hunger is a motive for eating and the desire for achievement is a motive for studying. Motivation, the overall process or state that initiates, directs and sustains behavior towards a goal. It is more dynamic than a motive, representing the energy and direction resulting from motives. For instance, hunger, which is a motive, creates the motivation to go to the kitchen and cook food. Motivators, the external or internal factors that arouse and influence motivation. They are more practical and triggers or conditions that activate motives and shape motivation. For example, smelling food can be a motivator for eating and praise from a teacher can be a motivator for studying harder. In short, a motive is the inner need or reason for action. Motivation is the drive that puts that need into motion, and motivators are the factors that triggers or influences that drive. Process of motivation. To understand motivation more deeply, it is helpful to view it not as a single event but as a continuous cycle. At the heart of the cycle are human needs, which serve as the foundation of all motivation. The process begins with an unfulfilled need. Motivation is triggered the moment an individual becomes aware of a gap between what they have and what they want. This recognition creates a tension, a state of discomfort or inner pressure. The individual begins to feel restless or uneasy, and this tension generates the desire to act in order to restore balance. Next comes search behavior. The tension fuels an active effort to explore different possibilities or alternatives to satisfy the need. The person begins considering options and weighing possible courses of action. Once an option is chosen and acted upon, the need is satisfied. The individual experiences relief as the tension is reduced. But here is the interesting path. This cycle does not end here. Almost immediately another need emerges, setting the cycle in motion again. This is why motivation is best understood as an ongoing and dynamic process. Let us move towards the components of motivation. Psychologists often describe motivation in terms of three main components: activation, persistence, and intensity. Each plays a distinct role, yet all are interconnected in shaping motivated behavior. Activation. Activation refers to the initial spark, the decision to begin a behavior. It is the point where intention transforms into action. Without activation, even the most carefully formed goals remain as abstract ideas rather than concrete steps. For example, when a student decides to enroll in a psychology program with the aim of earning a degree, that conscious choice represents activation. It is the first move towards translating intentions into reality, and it signals the onset of purposeful, goal-directed behavior. Persistence. Persistence is the continued effort applied over time, particularly when obstacles, distractions, or setbacks appear. It reflects determination and consistency even when motivation fluctuates or conditions are less than favorable. Consider the student who attends lectures regularly despite being tired from lack of sleep. This commitment reflects persistence. It emphasizes the importance of staying the course and demonstrates resilience, the quality that separates those who keep working forward their goals from those who give up too soon. Intensity. Intensity describes the level of energy, focus, and dedication invested in a behavior. It is not only about showing up or staying committed, but about how much effort is exerted in the process. Two students might both attend the same class, but their intensity can look very different. One might sit passively, barely engaging, while the other actively participates in discussions, studies consistently, and seeks out additional resources beyond the classroom. The latter clearly demonstrates a higher level of motivational intensity. Together, these three components, activation, persistence, and intensity, work in dynamic interaction. A strong activation phase can set a goal in motion, but without persistence and intensity, progress may stall. Likewise, persistence without sufficient intensity might keep someone going, but with limited results. Achieving meaningful goals often requires a balance of all three, starting with clear activation, sustaining effort with persistence, and driving forward with the intensity needed to reach success. Features of motivation. Motivation as a psychological concept has several key features that help us understand its nature and impact on behavior. To begin with, the first feature is that motivation is a psychological phenomenon. At its core, motivation arises from within. It is shaped by internal emotions such as needs, desires, and aspirations. These inner drivers strongly influence human behavior and push individuals to act. For example, the aspiration to own a new home, earn respect, or gain recognition can become powerful motivators. Importantly, motivation cannot simply be imposed from the outside. It must connect with a person's internal state. Motivation leads to goal-directed behavior. Motivation channels human energy towards the attainment of specific goals. A truly motivated individual requires little external supervision because they are already self-directed. For instance, an employee who aims for promotion will consistently work hard and demonstrate initiative without constant monitoring. Motivation, therefore, transforms intentions into purposeful action. Motivators can be both positive and negative. In real world contexts, both positive and negative motivators are used to influence behavior. Positive motivators include reward such as promotion, salary, increments, bonuses, respect and recognition. These encourage individuals by reinforcing desirable performance. However, if positive motivators fail, managers may turn to negative ones such as warnings, demotions or withholding of benefits. While less ideal, the fear of negative consequences can sometimes push individuals to act in the desired way. Motivation is a complex and multifaceted process. No single factor motivates all people equally. Human needs or wants are diverse, and individuals vary in what drives them. Some may be motivated strongly by financial rewards, while others respond better to recognition, opportunities for growth, or positive reinforcement. Understanding this diversity is crucial because generalization about motivation rarely captures the full picture. Effective motivation requires a nuanced understanding of individual differences. And finally, motivation is a continuous and evolving process. Human needs are never static. The fulfillment of one need often gives rise to another, creating an ongoing cycle. For example, once a person achieves financial security, they may begin to seek esteem, recognition, self-actualization, etc., etc. This means motivation is not a one-time effort, but a perpetual process that evolves alongside human development. Now, let us move towards the types of motivation. Motivation is not a single, uniform force. Instead, it takes many forms depending on the person, the situation, and the goal being pursued. In simple terms, it is the invisible energy that determines why we act, how much effort we put in, and how long we keep going even when challenges arise. Understanding different types of motivation is essential across many fields like education, psychology, organizational behavior, and health science because it directly shapes how people learn, perform, interact, and grow. Over the years, scholars have identified several distinct types of motivation, each with its own characteristics and implications. Among the most widely studied are intrinsic, extrinsic, achievement, affiliation, power, incentive, and fear-based motivation. Let us look at each of these more closely. Intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation comes from within. It is the drive to engage in activity simply because it is enjoyable, meaningful, and personally fulfilling. There are no external rewards or pressure, as it is the satisfaction of the task itself that matters. Think of a person who paints for hours just because they love expressing their creativity, or a student who reads books out of genuine curiosity. This type of motivation nurtures deeper learning, greater creativity, and long-lasting engagement. It also fosters autonomy and self-determination, making individuals more resilient in the face of setbacks. However, intrinsic motivation can be difficult to sustain in environments that are rigid, overly evaluative, or dominated by external rewards. Extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation, by contrast, comes from outside the individual. Here, behavior is driven by rewards or by the desire to avoid punishment. Grades, money, recognition, or fear of failure all fall into this category. For example, a student may study not because they enjoy the subject, but because they want a scholarship or to avoid scolding. Extrinsic motivation is powerful for initiating tasks and ensuring compliance in structured settings like schools and workplaces. However, it may not always last if external rewards dominate intrinsic interest in the task. Itself can fade, leading to a more transactional approach to learning or work. Achievement motivation. Achievement motivation centers on the desire to excel, master challenges, and meet high standards. People high in achievement motivation are goal-oriented, persistent, and willing to take on difficult tasks to prove their competence. Picture a student who works not just to pass an exam but to score at the very top of the class, or an athlete who trains to break personal records. This kind of motivation often leads to high productivity and resilience. At the same time, if unbalanced, it can create perfectionism, anxiety, and even social isolation. Affiliation motivation. Affiliation motivation is rooted in the human need for connection and belonging. Individuals motivated by affiliation value acceptance, approval, and harmonious relationships. They are cooperative, empathetic, and often sensitive to group dynamics. A good example is someone who joins a community group not for recognition but simply to feel as a part of that group. This type of motivation supports teamwork, emotional well-being, and social harmony. On the downside, it may also lead to fear of rejection, avoidance of conflict, or overdependence on external validation. Power motivation. Power motivation is the drive to influence, guide, or control others or to shape one's environment. People high in power motivation often seek leadership roles, decision making, authority, or opportunities to have an impact. When expressed positively, power motivation can lead to strong leadership, advocacy, and responsibility. For example, a teacher motivated by power may aim to inspire students and improve educational practices. But when unchecked, it may manifest as manipulation, domination, or authoritarianism. Incentive motivation. Closely related to extrinsic motivation, incentive motivation focuses specifically on the anticipation of rewards. Here, the promise of a benefit acts as the trigger for action. For instance, an employee may work harder to secure a promotion, or a student may participate in a competition because of the prize. Incentive motivation is especially effective in the short term where quick action is needed. However, if relied on too heavily, it may encourage people to focus only on the outcome and ignore the process of or intrinsic values of the activity. Fear motivation, sometimes called avoidance motivation, arises when behavior is driven by the desire to avoid negative outcomes such as punishment, criticism, or failure. A student who studies diligently to avoid failing an exam, or an employee who meets deadlines to avoid penalties, is operating under fear motivation, while effective in ensuring compliance and caution. Over-reliance on fear can create stress, anxiety, and burnout. It can also limit creativity and risk-taking if the environment becomes overly pressure-filled. To sum up, motivation is not a one-size-fits-all phenomenon. Each type, whether intrinsic, extrinsic, achievement, affiliation, power, incentive, or fear, offers a unique perspective on why people act the way they do. Some forms inspire creativity and long-term growth, while others provide structure, discipline, or caution. By recognizing these different types, educators, leaders, and individuals can better understand human behavior and create environments that foster balanced, meaningful, and sustainable motivation. Importance of studying motivation. Motivation lies at the heart of psychology and education because it explains what drives human behavior, why people act, how much effort they put in, and how long they persist. Understanding motivation is essential across learning, work, and personal life, as it directly influences performance, growth, and well-being, etc. Explaining behavior. Studying motivation helps us understand why behind actions, why one student persists while another gives up, or why some employees thrive while others disengage. This understanding is essential not only for psychologists but also for educators, employers, counselors, and policymakers who aim to influence behavior in constructive ways, facilitating goal setting and achievement. Motivation plays a vital role in goal setting, which is a core aspect of human development and achievement. Motivating individuals tend to set meaningful, challenging, and attainable goals. They demonstrate a higher level of commitment and are more likely to initiate action, monitor progress, and make necessary adjustments to achieve desired outcomes. Enhancing learning and academic performance. The educational context's motivation is a critical determinant of learning effectiveness. Students who are intrinsically motivated tend to exhibit deeper engagement, better cognitive processing, and greater academic persistence. Conversely, lack of motivation often leads to disengagement, poor performance, and even dropout. Understanding the types, intrinsic versus extrinsic, sources and dynamics of motivation enables teachers to create supportive learning environments that stimulate curiosity, interest, and sustained effort among students, improving workplace productivity and morale. In professional setting, motivation is directly linked to job satisfaction, performance, efficiency, and organizational commitment. Highly motivated employees are more productive, exhibit greater creativity, and are more resilient in the face of workplace challenges. Studying motivation in the organizational context helps in designing effective incentive system, leadership styles, and work cultures that enhance employees' morale and performance. Shaping personality and promoting self-development. Motivation is also instrumental in shaping an individual's personality and promoting personal growth. The aspirations, drives, and goals individuals pursue over time contribute significantly to the development of their identity. Long-term motivations influence patterns of behavior, lifestyle, choices, and even the way individuals perceive themselves and the world around them. Understanding one's own motivations fosters self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and intentional living. Awareness and unconscious motivation. Importantly, not all motivations are consciously recognized. While some individuals have clear awareness of what drives their actions, desire for success, recognition, or knowledge, others may be influenced by unconscious motivations such as fear of failure or unresolved emotional conflicts that subtly shape behavior. The study of motivation explores both conscious and unconscious dimensions, helping individuals and professionals understand the complexity of human behavior and make informed interventions when needed. Thus, studying motivation provides a deep insight into human functioning and offers practical strategies for enhancing learning, performance, and personal development. It serves as a guiding framework for understanding behavior, fostering growth, and promoting success across diverse life domains. Whether in educational institutions, workplaces, clinical settings, or everyday interactions, an informed understanding of motivation equips individuals and professionals with the tools to inspire, influence, and support meaningful behavioral change. As we come to the end of the session, let us take a moment to reflect on what we have learned. Motivation is not just a psychological concept. It is the driving force behind every action we take, from small daily decisions to our biggest life goals. It is dynamic, constantly shaped by our needs, aspirations, environments, and experiences. We explored how motivation can take many forms, whether through intrinsic curiosity, external rewards, the pursuit of achievement, the desire for belonging, the influence of power, or even the avoidance of fear. Each type highlights a unique pathway through which people find direction and purpose in their actions. The key takeaway is this: by understanding motivation, we gain the ability to inspire ourselves and others, to sustain effort, to face challenges with resilience, and ultimately to unlock human potential. These insights remind us that motivation is not just something to study it is something to cultivate in every aspect of life. Thank you for joining the session. I hope this session has not only deepened your understanding but also encouraged you to reflect on your own sources of motivation and how you can nurture them in your daily life. Until next time, stay motivated and keep striving towards your own goals. Thank you.